Welcome everyone on this very warm fall evening. I just want to welcome you and to our speaker meeting. We have about 6 a year, and we're so grateful that you're all here to learn more about this, and we're grateful to our speakers. So welcome. I'll just pass it on right away. My name is Teresa Adams, and I'm the executive director. And the one thing I would love to start this is that NAMI Santa Cruz County, we're here for you. And if you need us, we want to help you. So I'm going to put our number in the chat. So if we have support groups, we have classes, and we do these informational educational speaker meetings every other month. And we have our programs in English and Spanish. So welcome, and I'll put that helpline in the chat. And so I'm going to pass it on to Mike Beebe. And before I pass it on, Mike Beebe is our board chair. And Mike took over for Carol Williamson, who was the board president for a gazillion years. And we are so grateful for Mike. We have grown leaps and bounds, and he has been the perfect leader for our exponential growth. So I want to happily introduce you to Mike Beebe, who will now introduce the speakers.
Thanks, Teresa, and all our successes with Teresa and our staff. So we're happy to support her. This evening, well, first, I'm so pleased everyone is joining us this evening, and I'm very happy to introduce our 4 speakers tonight who will share their experiences, how to support our loved ones and ourselves if our loved ones with mental health issues become involved in the criminal justice system. Carol DiCarvalho and Heidi Alexander are joining us from NAMI Santa Clara. They both have experience of arrest of their loved ones with underlying mental issues at the time of their arrest. And at the time, neither of them had any experience with the criminal justice system, as will be true with all of us if we get involved in the system. They figured it out and ultimately created a support group to assist and help others navigate in this complicated situation. They're here graciously this evening to help share their insights and answer our questions. So we're really thankful they're with us this evening. Our own Hugh McCormick is an author, Santa Cruz NAMI peer leader, a social justice advocate who serves on the Mental Health Advisory Board. He joins us tonight to share information on the Jail 101 guide that he created to help navigate our local jail, as well as share some of his personal experiences. Reverend Beverly Brook is a team leader at Prophets for Hope, a Peace United ministry dedicated to justice to serve our incarcerated neighbors and friends across Santa Cruz and other areas. She'll be sharing some of the work she's involved with in our community this evening. And I'm sure we're going to find that the information our speaker is going to share with us this evening will help us better understand the system and the tools we need to help understand and advocate if our loved ones become involved in the justice system. So with that, I think I'll turn it over, Heidi, to you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Yes, hi, and thank you for this opportunity to share a bit of our county with yours. My name is Heidi, and I'm kind of a newbie co-facilitator for the NAMI Santa Clara Jail Court Family Support Group, which meets once a month. This group was started by Carol and Kathy about 5 years ago when they realized the need for support as they themselves were navigating their own lived experience. And they didn't know that they would soon become 2 very valuable and cherished sources of information and support to all of us who share in this journey. And once a month together, we learn, we grow, and we find comfort and hope. And I don't see the slides. Oh, there it is. Okay. Can we go to the next one? Thank you. So Carol will now share with you some of the things that we share with our group, the forms that we encourage the family to prepare, how to get help before a possible crisis event and during a crisis event, and how to advocate for loved ones within the criminal justice system. And I think towards the end, we'll kind of go into questions and see about the interest in Santa Cruz, expanding support for family members to also have a group. But I'll turn it over to Carol. She's been just invaluable to me as I've gone through my journey, as has Kathy. And it's really made a huge difference in navigating such unfamiliar territory. So Carol.
Thank you, Heidi. So we have a team of 3, as Heidi mentioned. There's Heidi, Kathy, and myself. And we have started this group. And the purposes of our support group are to support family members or friends whose loved one is in jail or the court system. And this support we have found has been really important because to the person who's been arrested, it's an overwhelming experience. The loss of freedom, the sense of self-worth, the embarrassment, just really devastating for who's ever, incarcerated. And as well, the family members are experiencing trauma. Perhaps they've been trying to get people help over time with not much luck. And to have this be the end of getting help, it is quite devastating. But we find it very comforting to people that they can share part of their story with a group in a non-judgmental place. I think everybody has an opinion if your loved one gets arrested. And it's not always, there's always lots of advice. And I think we try to open that space for people just to share their story as part of healing. And we really break it down to the kind of the NAMI way. We've been trained as facilitators, and we really focus on what is your most pressing need. And as we go around different people sharing, a lot of things come to light as far as educating one another and being there to support one another. Because when you enter the criminal justice system, it is totally overwhelming. I think too, we really get a sense of hope from one another. And we're so thankful for people who come back to the group that tell their story of how their loved one has progressed and is in a very different state than when they first came to the group. And that hope really is important. And I think the other thing that we do is help people get into advocacy. How do we advocate every step along the way, whether it's in the jail system, especially the courts, because when we're looking at the courts, it's how they get treatment. And sometimes that's the first time people will be getting treatment over many, many years. So we share resource information. You have some great resource information on your guide for friends and family members that Hugh's put together. And we complement that with some of the things about the court. And then it's just really difficult, to navigate the complex system for those living with a serious mental health issue. So we try to deal with those issues as far as in the support group. We meet the first Wednesday of the month at 6:30 via Zoom. You can sign up, anybody from Santa Cruz County who would like to join us is welcome. We get members joining us from all over the country, as maybe the loved one was arrested in San Jose, but family members are out of state, out of county. So that's where Zoom has been very invaluable on including the people too. So next slide, please. So there's a lot of things we share in common between NAMI, our two NAMIs. And there's things that we might call differently, different names. So we're trying to point out the common things. And also you might call things differently in your county than we do. So we appreciate any corrections or how we can bring these two things together. Because at first we were going to tell you about what we do, but going through your information on your website, we're trying to combine what we do with what's available in your county. And that's where we're not as familiar as, you know, some of the members here. So we're getting to the your family input form. And we did bring up that this is really an Assembly Bill 1424. And it requires that all individuals making decisions about involuntary psychiatric treatment considered information supplied by family members. And this information is really invaluable because there's a long history usually preceding an arrest. And this does not come to light, you know, from the individual. They might say there's nothing wrong. They may present very well that the mental health problem is not, you know, readily seen. So these forms communicate about the relative's mental health history to psychiatric and court authorities. And it's legally, they must read the information and keep a copy in the consumer's health chart or court record. So next slide, we'll look at your family form. And this is a legal form that the court, the jails must consider. And it's the basic information. You can look this over and download this from the NAMI website. So about hospitalizations, and you know, has there been 5150s before, and medications, anything that's worked. But I think if we get to the right side and looking at the symptoms, so many times there's not a diagnosis, but this is good for family members to go through and check the different things that they're seeing with symptoms, that this can be related to the court or the jail, mostly the jail, especially things like suicidal ideation, if this has been a problem in the past, just all of the symptoms you're seeing that have led to this arrest.
Carol, can I say something?
Yes.
I was just noticing something that was really important for me filling out my form was actually also being able to include things that didn't work or medications that didn't work well. And I think those are important things to put on there because sometimes your loved ones have, you know, they kind of know what they, you know, what works or what they hate or whatever. And so if you can pass that on too, I think that's really important.
Yes. And then this is one of the forms you should have always prepared ahead of time. Oftentimes you can see the situation escalating, and instead of you know, being ill prepared, that suddenly nobody expects their loved one to get arrested. You never in your wildest dreams, at least from so many people that I've heard, think this could ever happen to your, you know, your loved one who you've known all their life, and all of a sudden things spiral out of control. So next slide, please. The other form that we've developed at our NAMI, which is also covered by Assembly Bill, is a family input form. And we use this mostly for court or maybe a mental health social worker. It's a one-page, just brief overview. And the reason in court, they don't read anything that's more than one page. And so if you can put some really important information, it's a little repetitive, like hospitalizations on the first section. We have this so you can type it in on our website, Santa Clara NAMI. In a brief medical history, then input relevant to the current charge. Sometimes there's been a trigger, there's been a death, a loss of job, want to be careful what you put in here according to the DAs, because you don't want to put anything incriminating. But sometimes there's just some really devastating things that happen to people that might have influenced this behavior. Then where the red arrow is, it's a family request to the court. And this is really important because we have power, we have influence on what we would like to see for our family member. And when they're going through court, there's the arraignment first where the charges are read. And then at this time, there's, after the charges read and going into the next court proceeding, there's a time for diversion, which would take the person out of the criminal justice system. This person would have to be very stable on their medication. This is not always the case. Somebody's been arrested. And then later on, when it comes time for getting out, getting to the outside, you might want to say what you want for your loved one as far as an inpatient or supervised program with medication management. Do they need to go to crisis residential? Oftentimes they'll ask you if you want to take them home, and that's not always a good idea if it's been a real triggering situation for both the person, the individual, and the family members. So next slide, please. So from Santa Cruz, where to send these forms, I read in Hugh's overview, and we got this information to send it to the main jail at the numbers on the board, on the whiteboard, and also has a number for the Behavioral Health Division. And these, I think the only place they have in Santa Cruz for mental health issues is at the main jail. And then for the court, we'll get into the court a little more later, is the public defenders. They gave the person Mark Briscoe, and they have his email in the jail guide. So that's important to know when to send these forms and who to send them for. And it's part of our support group. That's what we help people.
And
at a
it would be
time.
nice if someone could get an email for the jail, because getting through on the phone is sometimes very difficult. I just, on day before yesterday, found out my son got arrested again. Good journey for a couple of years, and now we're back to square one. And it's interesting how, knowing all this, you still kind of start to panic. And I put together my family input form and all that, and sent it to our public defender's office, along with that family input form, the AB 14. And I also sent it to the jail that we have emails for. And they emailed me the very next day, and he had already been released, but that's a whole nother story. I was a little late, but it's nice to have the emails. They seem to respond well to the emails.
Just one other point I wanted to bring up about the jail and the court. We started this group 5 years ago, and we thought nobody would come, but we did get a lot of people, and we're still going. We hope to get out of business and get criminal, decriminalization of mental health. But we do have from Custody Health, we have the social worker come to our support group who gives information, general information to the families. They have a person they can contact. And that's been really helpful. She gives out her email so they can contact her. The other thing we need to emphasize over and over again is to get for the person who's been arrested to get the release of information signed. Sometimes this is hard to do, but they really work to get that so we can discuss both ways. But the important thing is that we always need to give information, no matter if there is a release signed. So,
And also you wanted to, that this family input form, with each hearing, you almost have to redo it because like this, like hearing that my son was supposed to be in was just to like, you know, just where they do a plea or whatever. So really my request to the court is to put him back in the, ours is the behavioral court, the mental health court. Once he gets into that court, then it's going to be more like he needs supported housing and blah, 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 blah. So it's okay to every hearing, bring new forms in because they don't even, I don't know what they do with them, you know, but it never hurts to have more because chances are they don't know where the other ones were or what happened to them.
and forms do not, they don't go from one place to another.
They
So
don't transfer. Yeah.
You have to do it every step along the way.
Mhm.
When you go to court, you can give it to the bailiff, but it's best to get the public defender's email and email it directly to the public defender. So next slide, please. So help before a crisis. That's what we always want to avert, is this crisis of, you know, going to jail. Sometimes hospitalization is necessary to get stabilized. So the NAMI helpline is listed here, or calling 988. And this is pretty new. And I know in Santa Clara County, we've been having glitches with it. I'm not sure how it's going in Santa Cruz County, but it's supposed to be the simple number that any person can call when somebody's in a suicidal predicament or a mental health crisis. There's some other things we have in Santa Clara County, AOT, assisted outpatient treatment, but possibly coming soon, Gavin Newsom just signed a bill for care court for the state, which is similar to our AOT, which family members, clinicians, you know, mental health workers can refer a person when they are spiraling, you know, out of control. They've been through hospitalizations or jail. And we're looking for these things, both in care court, assisted outpatient treatment, and track 1 diversion, that we're out of the criminal justice system. We should not be having our loved ones treated as the main source of treatment in the criminal justice system. And we really need to advocate for changes in the way things are done. But we're working with the system as it is now. And then during a crisis, always call the mobile crisis response team, and either the 998 or the number, the 831 number. If you do call 911, always ask for the CIT, the crisis intervention trained officer. And there's also a mental health liaison law enforcement number that we did get from the information in the guide. And if a restraining order is needed, it can be amended. Sometimes law enforcement will put the restraining order on that the family hasn't asked for when they see that there's a need. That happens quite often. But those can be amended to friendly contact. Next slide, please. So mental health diversion, and again, getting to the legal assembly bill was 1810, about 2018. Diversion track 1, where the person will go out of the criminal justice system, but still into the court for treatment. And this is, you know, they're ready to participate in therapy, medication. This is a 2-year program, and that does not have a criminal record that needs to be cleared or expunged. And then the other track that was created at this time was incompetency to stand trial. And this is where the individual would go to either a local program to become competent, to understand what they're going through. And this could go all the way to a state hospital, which has been really, really difficult, especially during COVID, that they have the beds available or the time it takes to complete the program. It's very, very long process and very difficult for the individual or the families. And I think that's where the support group is helpful to, have other families to talk to who have been through this long involved program of incompetency. Next slide. And the diversion, or track 2, this is from your guide, the jail mental health discharge planner, who's a liaison to the courts, may assist in implementing alternative sentence from jail or prison to a mental health treatment facility. And then the jail discharge planner phone number is there. Next slide. So I was trying to find out what the court system is here in Santa Cruz, because in Santa Clara County, we have the famous Judge Manley, who's been doing behavioral health court for years and years. Now we actually have 2 courts, and I was Googling behavioral health court in Santa Cruz, mental health court, nothing came up. So where I found the information is under the collaborative court system, which behavioral health court comes under. And so this is a video put out addressing behavioral health court, and there's some other courts under this collaborative court, which is the Veterans Court, Family Preservation Court, and Reentry Court. But it gives you an idea, because here we're getting now to treatment. What happens to our loved ones, our friends, when they are in the criminal justice system, and what is Santa Cruz County doing? And I'd love to hear feedback from people who know about this, because the videos are quite convincing that everybody's getting treated, and there's lots of resources here. So Sophia, if we could play this, and then Hugh will come on after this.
Collaborative court is a program within the court system which tries to get to the root causes of why people are in the criminal justice system to begin with. And it tries to address those issues which may have led somebody to become involved in the criminal justice system.
The people that are coming through our court system are ones that have challenges, and usually are the most challenged in our communities and through the court system. So they have been specially identified to have the extra resources for them to be successful. So the idea of the collaborative court is to bring everybody to the table with everyone's expertise and specialties, and to come together to really problem solve and benefit the person so that they can be successful during the time that they're under the court's supervision and working with probation.
We are actually able to provide treatment funds as well, supporting them with programming or sober living environments, SLEs. So we're able to support them with that. We're able to support them in their Medi-Cal services, Social Security services, getting them connected to those things. And we also make sure that for reentry court specifically, that they're abiding by their parole terms, that they're not going to be violating. So we just help support them and make sure they're navigating back into reunifying back into the community.
The PAC court is all about recovery. It's a good program that helps you get back on your feet and get your life back together.
Early in my release, I was feeling very scattered, and it just gave me a foundation knowing that I had to show up in court and be accountable with my peers and the judge and the support group. It just helped me feel grounded
I had lost family because of a mental health disorder that I wasn't taking care of. It just became overwhelming for everybody. And for the first time in years, I felt like, okay, these people really care. And I felt like I had a team.
3-4 times out the week, they were reaching out. How you doing? How you been? What are your plans for the week? Are you working? Do you need some help? I was at a state of mind where I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I'm fresh out of prison. A year later, I have a good job. I'm making $18 an hour. I just bought a car. And it's all because of the accountability that the reentry program hold me up to.
If you're a family member of someone who's suffering from mental health issues or substance abuse issues, your support is crucial to their recovery.
If you're a parent of someone that's on probation, you shouldn't have to be on probation too. You should have them be taking care of that as best they can. And, you know, if they mess up, which I've seen a lot of people do, you know, it's not a big deal. Just be supportive to your child as much as you can. But also, you know, like I said, you have to let them do this. Don't remove yourself from the situation. You want to be there for your children. You want to be there for people to help. But you also want the system, the people that are there to basically direct. And in this situation with Behavioral Health Court, it's actually easier because there's more people there that are trying to do that for you.
I would have to say, you know, hang in there. And there's only so much that any one person can do for somebody else. They really have to do the work themselves. So you can't force someone to want to better themselves, unfortunately. So I think just, you know, being able to hold space and separate yourself from that other family member that maybe is going through a hard time, be there for support, but let them, you know, kind of be themselves and, you know, realize that they have to work through it themselves. And that might look like a crash. You know, they might hit it hard. They might end up in jail. They might end up hospitalized 5150 or something. And you can be there as support, but, you know, you have to realize that it's their path.
Have a level of compassion because it's really not found in the general community. There's such a misunderstanding with mental health issues that people don't take the time to try to recognize and understand. There was no normal line when I was born and a line that said mental illness, you'll struggle for the rest of your life. I didn't raise my hand to enter that line. We often get treated like we're supposed to act like we don't have mental health issues. And we do. We do. It's something we were born with.
My family is so important to me. It always has been. My family raised with love. People wonder why I turned out the way I did. My family's come back together for me. And it's just so awesome. Since then, we've spent so much time together making up for lost time. And it's been so beautiful.
I just want to let you know, in my experience as a judge, I've seen the success of the program. I encourage family members to study about what they can do to support their family member. We need you to be compassionate and caring and try to think about the language that you use. You need to change what your interaction is with the participant, and that's asking a lot. But it's only through trying to reinforce those new ways of thinking, those new patterns of behavior, that we can get some success. But also to set those strong boundaries, make sure that you tell the service providers if someone's had a relapse or they're not taking their medications, or that the participant's been acting in a way that's suspicious, because you know when that's happening, and we need everybody's help to hold the participants accountable. It's compassion and accountability. When that system is in place, we see success.
Well, welcome everybody to the speaker meeting tonight. I'm super happy to be a part of this. I've done speaker meetings before, but never on the jail and the court system. So this is new for me and really exciting. It's something that I'm definitely passionate about. I was asked to share a little bit about my story and some of the work that I've been doing the last couple of years. And I will do so. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here representing NAMI, NAMI Santa Cruz County. There's a lot of NAMIs out there, but we have a really special chapter that I've been involved with for over 12 years now. When I started NAMI Santa Cruz County, or started with NAMI Santa Cruz County, sometimes it feels like I actually started NAMI Santa Cruz County. It's been that long. There wasn't much programming to speak of. Most of our offerings for family members. And there wasn't really anything except for a peer-to-peer class for peers. I got involved like right away, and Carol Williamson, who's kind of my inspiration and my dearest friend, really wanted me to come in and start some of these programs. And so I did. I was basically the peer programs for NAMI for a bunch of years. And my mom, Cherry, did a lot of the family work, leading the family to family class and family support groups. And yeah, it's been quite a ride. When I started, we had no office, no budget, really. It was all out of Carol Williamson's bedroom that we got to work, and really built NAMI into a thriving organization. So my story begins kind of when I was first diagnosed at age 19. I was a straight A student going to the University of California, San Diego, and I got kind of hit by mental illness really, really hard. I started hearing a voice in my head, and I've spoken enough times where a lot of people know my story already, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But the highlights, like being hospitalized 13 times, becoming conserved, a ward of the state, being physically locked up, and being told that I was never going to get better, that this was the new reality and this is the new Hugh. And it wasn't until I found NAMI, after going to hundreds of groups and NA meetings and AA meetings, whatever, the programs that I was in entailed, did the word recovery, enter the fold and, was put on the table. And that's really what got me hooked into NAMI, was this belief of recovery. Somebody like me with schizophrenia could actually recover. And, when I heard that message, I was 324 pounds, reeling from a stint being locked up in a local facility called 7th Avenue Center. And I really only went to my first NAMI group because there was free pizza, and I was hungry and 324 pounds, so I could eat a lot of pizza. And it kind of just planted the seed that like maybe I could get better. And I did get better. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of years of going to Weight Watchers and having old ladies dote on me, and going to the gym and doing things for my physical body, but also doing things for my mind, and finding a lifestyle that was healthy or healthier. It was hard. I was deprived by a lot of stuff over the years. I never could have donuts or Coca-Cola, so of course that's the first thing that I gravitated towards. But anyways, I was inspired, and that first peer-to-peer class that I took, I've done 19 times now. I've led over 300 support groups for a local chapter, and what's really cool about NAMI these days is they can actually pay peers. I was doing everything, because I wanted to help people. And that is my focus, to not just help peers, but to also help family members. Because I know how desperate my mom was trying to find, support, education, a shoulder to cry on when I was, dancing naked on top of a car or whatever, or, re-hospitalized. It was super confusing for her. And not all the peers, that I've met over the years can reach this nebulous region or this like term called recovery. A lot of the people I spent time in facilities and hospitals, slipped through the cracks, and never got out like I did. and a lot of them ended up being incarcerated, you know, going to jail as the de facto institution to house our mentally ill. And I was close, you know, I was there, you know, I was getting beat up and I fought back, charged with, you know, assault. And, you know, I was, you know, on the doorstep. And a lot of people just make that one mistake or react, you know, too strongly in that one situation. And then, you know, you're in jail. And just like mental health, jail is probably beyond, you know, confusing for the inmates, but also their family members. And I'm on the County Mental Health Advisory Board. I serve on District 3, and part of my focus was on the jails. And I've just met so many peers coming out of jail or just involved in that system and their family members, just like sheer and utter like confusion and desperation. So I took all the stuff that I learned from them and decided I wanted to create like an information guide to the Santa Cruz County jail system. To help navigate it, to understand the terms, to understand things like commissary and mail and visitation and stuff like that. So I'm the kind of person, like I'm a journalist too. So if I have like a project, I just attack it with like vim and vigor and everything. So I just went like all in and used my position on the County Mental Health Advisory Board to get kind of inside access to the jail. We did like a walkthrough of the jail, and you know, it's so siloed. There's such a gap between the people in jail or the people working in jail and the people outside of jail, that I was really lucky that I was able to have the access that I did. So I created this packet using my role on the County Mental Health Advisory Board and my role with NAMI. And I can go through a little bit of it right now. It's to help family members help inmates. Like the more information people on the outside have about jail, the more information that's actually going to get to the inmates inside. So a lot of the inmates, I don't like the term inmate, but it makes things easier. They don't know how jail works. And so nobody ever tells them. There's inmate orientation materials, which I have included in the guide, but there's really nobody like, you know, hello, Johnny, this is how jail works. So I created this guide for family members, people on the outside. People on the inside aren't getting this packet with things like, you know, forms that are available in jail, like how commissary works. I included like the commissary forms actually used inside the jail. And, you know, a lot of the resources that family members can use, you know, NAMI programs and things. Yeah, just in the hopes that the information and like the guide and the resources and the forms, you know, on my tour, I was picking up every single form that I could get. Nobody has that access. Hopefully, you know, this packet, it's just a humble packet that's, you know, expanded into what it is today, will make, you know, the landing in jail as stress-free and smooth as possible for everybody. And I think the best tool that people have is education, and to give information, you know, to as many parties involved as possible. You know, incarceration separates inmates and their families, you know, physically and emotionally, where people enter like entirely different worlds. And those worlds are so different. I mean, they're governed by foreign rules, policies, you know, regulations, and just making connections between the inside and out can be really difficult. So if you're interested in how mail works at the jail, how commissary works at the jail, how phone calls work at the jail's using tablet computers now, so everything's digital. You know, what the exact rules and regulations are inside the jail, that's all in the packet. And as are all the forms available to inmates. My NAMI work was all about helping others and their families to not suffer like I did. and how my family did. And that's kind of how I attacked this jail work too. Today I'm on the County Mental Health Advisory Board. I'm on the ministry team at Twin Lakes. I'm on the board of directors at NAMI. I work as a journalist at the Good Times, and I've reached recovery. And I haven't had, to spend too much time in jail. And I'm blessed. Today I'm medication stabilized, I guess, and been out of the hospital for like 16 years and got a great dog and a car, and I get to afford living in Santa Cruz. And really, if you have any questions about the packet or how to advocate for your loved one, you can always contact me. I'm sorry if I went a little long, but yeah, I guess that's it. I'll be here for questions at the end if you need me. So, yeah, sorry. Thank you. Oh, and I'd like to now introduce my friend, my inspiration, Reverend Beverly Brook from Peace United Church, who's going to talk about her ministry and the amazing things that she's doing for the incarcerated and their family members here in Santa Cruz County. So take it away, Rev Bev.
All right. Thank you, Hugh, for the introduction and for asking me to join you all this evening. As you were talking about NAMI, it just reminded me that I became familiar with NAMI in the late 1990s, early 2000s. I was a federal probation officer, and my specialty was mental health specialist. And I did training for our officers whose caseload consisted of folks who were suffering from mental illness. And as I did this training and I came home to Santa Cruz County, I talked to my husband and said, our officers in our county need this training. And so my husband has been in law enforcement all his career, and he said, well, you need to do this and you need to do that. So I hooked up with NAMI, and we were able to do the training for every law enforcement agency in Santa Cruz County. And then after we finished, they started putting mental health training in their budget. So I go way back, and then there was a program called Compeer. I don't know if anybody remembers Compeer, but it hooked up volunteers were with somebody in the mental health system, and we went to movies and restaurants and those kind of things. So anyway, that's kind of my introduction into NAMI. And when I took an early retirement from probation, I decided to go to seminary. And at that time, I was volunteering at Juvenile Hall, providing faith services. And when I returned and graduated, I went to Juvenile Hall and I said, do you have a chaplain? Does anybody have a chaplain? And they said, no, but we really need one. So I wrote up a job proposal and started to provide chaplain services for Juvenile Hall. At that time, we had a number of youth who were being charged as adults. So the day they turn 18 on their 18th birthday, they're transferred to county jail. And since I had been seeing them for so long, they asked me if I could see them in county jail. And so I started providing chaplain services in our county jail, which I know Santa Clara County has a very robust chaplaincy. Our county and our sheriff decided that we didn't need a chaplain. We had 1.5 for many, many years, one full-time, one part-time. When the part-time person retired and then the full-time person retired, they got rid of the chaplain services. Felt that the inmates did not need to have a full-time chaplain. So a couple of us got together and proposed that we be, they call it spiritual support. They even got rid of the chapel, believe it or not, made it into an office, took down the cross, the icons and everything. And so we've had to really work hard to make sure that we are serving the people that are incarcerated in the county jails. So we, through Peace United Church of Christ, we have Prophets of Hope, and we believe we have a ministry of presence. So we are present, and we provide faith services. I provide separately spiritual support. And during my time at seminary, I also taught a healing from violence class in a women's prison in Pleasanton. So when I got back, I offered to teach that course in the women's facility, which at that time was Blaine Street. And I've done that for about 8 or 9 years until COVID. So then, and this person is on the call tonight, Kathy Fall, who also volunteered up at Juvenile Hall and did an art program up there. I asked her if she would help me create a men's healing from violence class because she knew quite a few of the young men from Juvenile Hall who were in county jail. And so she and I did that for 3 years, and she added an art piece. So she also did go in and do the art with men, primarily in the dropout unit. And then that kind of all stopped with COVID. But prior to COVID, we had a volunteer who was visiting someone in county jail and decided that the family members, the loved ones waiting to go visit their person, weren't treated very well. They weren't treated rudely, they were just kind of ignored. So she felt she wanted to start what we've called a jail lobby ministry. So on visiting days, right now on Sundays, she organizes people to come in from a variety of places, but mostly from our church. We provide good coffee, juice boxes, pastries, and one need that she found, and she's really done a great job with this, is bringing in books for youth and for children. And the books are given away. She makes a little library and giving them away. And I don't know about Santa Clara County, but to visit a loved one here, you have to go an hour ahead of time and check in. And so then you're just, the kids are running around and so now they've got books and they've got a little something to eat. And so that's been a real success. The other part for our volunteers is they don't have to be fingerprinted. They don't have to go through anything because they're in the lobby. So we did check with the sheriff's office, and they have put a few little bumps in the road, but we've smoothed those out. So we're doing that. And we're back now with both our faith services in the jail, and I went with spiritual support throughout COVID. I think I had 4 months that nobody was going in, but then I started going in, and as you can imagine, the mental health of folks has just deteriorated over this time. I don't know about Santa Clara County. We were closed for 2 3/4 of a year, where they got no visits at all. They did do some video chats if you had the money on your books to do that, but they also curtailed some of the free phone calls. So the folks were so limited in their contact with family members. We also our volunteers do the holiday bags at the holiday time in December. We've done between 175 and 300 bags to take into the jail. And this, in the last 6 months, 8 months, we started to prepare little backpacks for women getting out of jail that didn't maybe have any clothes except for what they were arrested with. And maybe they've been in 3 or 4 or 5 months, they're moldy, whatever. So we put together bags. We have toiletries, sweatpants, sweat top, a t-shirt, bras, underwear, and socks. And so we've done that for the women, and we're looking at maybe being able to do that for the men in the beginning of the year. At Juvenile Hall, we provided tamale Christmas Eve. We bring in tamales. Last year we brought them and dropped them off, but we can do that. We bring presents for the youth, and all of that we still do advocacy. And so we didn't want Blaine Street to close, which is a women's facility built for women, which unfortunately, because of short staff, not having enough staff, they closed Blaine Street, and all the women are now crowded into the main jail. We advocated for stopping charging youth as adults, closing the Division of Juvenile Justice in Stockton, and now we're advocating for jail oversight, well, not jail oversight, sheriff oversight, which would include the jail. And as you can imagine, when I see people, I just had to do a quarterly. I saw 65 inmates in the last quarter individually, and hearing their stories, right, of what's going on. And I tend to ask them if I know them, how, are you getting your medication? Is it the right medication? And so I have strong concerns about the medical and behavioral health treatment that folks are getting. And what I've heard most of all is the medication should come 3 times a day, and they give it them 1 time a day for them to, I don't know, sort out. So I think there's some real issues. I also find that family members have reached out to me just for, not that I can really do anything, but I can share, like Heidi and Carol were saying, information, just to kind of help someone is here. I have a woman that I just, I've met. I don't know how she heard about me. She's 88 years old. Her son just got out of prison after 24 years. And just the transition, he's 64. The transition for her, for him, what the world is like now, just having someone to call up and saying, I'm struggling with this. I want him here, but I'm struggling with this. So, yeah, that's kind of what we do. And we are back at Juvenile Hall as well. We were on phone with them throughout the pandemic because, I don't know, teenagers and Zoom and everybody in, it wasn't a very good experience for any of us. So I just started calling on the phone. So yeah, that's what I do.
Thank you so much to all of our speakers.